Welcome back to our channel. Today I'm going to recap a movie titled The Big Short, which is a 2015 American biographical comedy drama film. So let's get into the movie. Jared Vennett tells us how mortgage bonds were introduced into the banking system of the United States of America. He tells how revolutionary this idea was, and that it helped banks make billions of dollars. He tells us about the financial crisis that occurred in 2008. We see Michael Burry sitting with his fresh employee and tell him about the troubles that he had to face as a student in school. Michael asks him to join, giving him a task to find 20 top mortgage bonds available at the time. Mark Baum is seen to hijack a meeting that already was going well. He leaves the meeting as he receives a call from a person named Porter. We see Burry, who calls Lawrence and tells him that he wants to short the housing mortgage bond. Robbie Margot then explains the difficult terms used by Burry during his call to Lawrence. Burry gets the reports and spends his time analyzing the mortgage bonds, while Baum is shown on the street when he receives a call from his wife, who tells him that he has again missed the appointment with the therapist and requests him not to do that again. Michael Burry, after deep analysis, calls Lawrence again and tells him that he has read the mortgage bonds deeply and wants to short them, saying that he will need a bank to help him with this and he will buy the bank later when the market will fall in 2007. He's shown going to different banks, showing his reports and convincing them all to help him. At a party, Jared gets to know about what Burry did from the bank member who helped him. Burry receives a call from Lawrence, who tells him that the amount that he has demanded from him is impossible for him to be managed by his company, asking him how he can bet on something that has never happened before. Burry receives email replies from many investors, mocking him for what he's doing. Baum reaches back to his office, where he meets his colleagues Vinny, Porter, and Danny Moses. Moses receives a call from an unknown number, from where they get to know that someone named Jared has shorted the housing mortgages. They call him and have a meeting with him. Jared comes there with his assistant and explains the situation to them by giving an example of how the housing market is going to crash. They all call him insane except for Baum. Jared tells them about collateral debt obligation, which is explained by the famous cook Anthony Bourdain. Jared assures them that they are going to make a deal of their lifetime and they will end up making billions once it happens. Jared leaves from there and Baum's colleagues ask him why he believes him, and he convinces them by giving a logical answer to them. We see two young men named Gary and Jamie who go to a bank and talk to a person named Charlie, asking him to invest in their company, Brownfield, as they are making millions from it. They ask him to get them the membership of ISDA, and we are shown on the screen what it is. Charlie leaves from there, telling them that he cannot help them as they were lacking money for what they were demanding him to do. In the bank, Gary gets to know about Jared Vennett and that he calls the housing market a bubble. They get very impressed by his idea, getting very excited to work on it. They start their research, and finally, Gary recalls Ben Rickard, who was Jamie's neighbor, and they go to meet him to seek guidance in this regard. Ben tells them that he has left this job and is tired of banking. They ask him for a favor and he agrees to help them to an extent. We see two men from a bank going to the houses whose owners did not pay the mortgages. They meet a man who tells them that he has been paying the rent, and they leave suggesting that he should talk to his landlord about it. Baum and his colleague are seen with a woman named Marlene, who shows them many houses that she has sold to different people. They stop to meet two men who had their own private company and used to give immigrants houses with them being aware of what they're going to get. Baum finds it strange and they tell him that they work for Stanley's bank. They tell him about a stripper and Baum meets her to ask all of the questions that he was having in his mind. From here, he gets to know that she has 5 houses in her name, and immediately after getting free from there, he calls Vinny to ask him to buy swaps worth $50 million, telling him that Jared was right and he has found the bubble. Vinny calls Jared, who was at a gym, and tells him that they want to buy swaps worth $50 million for housing shorts, warning him not to mess with them. We see Jamie and Gary trying to contact Ben, who was in his office, and after several calls, he listens to them and tells them that Jared was right, telling them that there is a bubble in housing mortgage bonds that can collapse. They both get very excited and ask Ben to help them gain a seat in ISDA to make this trade happen. Baum is sitting in a taxi and calls Vinny, who tells him that the mortgages have not fallen and are having very good ratings that were very bad for them, and everyone was stressed in their office. People from risk management of Morgan Stanley's bank were also there, and Baum asks Vinny to tell them to go away from their office. Baum asks him to call Jared and get ready to meet Georgia. They go to meet Georgia, the manager at Standard & Poor's office, and ask her how can it be possible that the ratings are not changed for a few banks, and from there they get to know that the ratings are sold from their office. Jamie was too worried and Gary asks him to calm down while Ben was on the call. Jared comes to meet Baum and his colleagues, who shout at him, and he tells them that he has already informed them about this, suggesting them to buy more swaps for more profit in future. Gary also suggests buying more swaps, but Jamie asks him to think once again, telling him that they can be wrong as they are having no one to guide them, to which Ben replies that they need to go to Las Vegas with him. Jared leaves from there, asking them to come to Las Vegas. They all reach Las Vegas, where Baum was very desperate to talk to any of the bankers. In a conference, Baum interrupts the briefing and keeps asking questions and leaves after he receives a call from his wife. Jamie tells Gary that his brother's ex-girlfriend is also here in Las Vegas and tells him that she works in a SEC bank, so he will ask her about that. Jamie meets her and asks her about mortgages, but she tells him that they don't work on these and leaves without giving him any useful information. Burry was very disappointed and decided to go to his home. Before leaving, he talks to David about what happened and tells him that they may be wrong, which makes Burry think about it. In Las Vegas, Gary thinks of an idea and shares it with Ben and Jamie, after which he tells us that no one except them has thought of this. Ben appreciates them and introduces them to many businessmen making their deals. They get very excited, but Ben asks them not to dance as they have bet against the American economy, meaning that if they are right, many people will become jobless and homeless. While Baum meets the CDO manager, who tells him about synthetic CDOs that blow his mind, Professor Richard and Selena explain the meaning of synthetic CDO by a practical example. Baum goes to his colleague and tells them that this man has convinced him to spend $500 million on swaps. They all leave from Las Vegas. Burry is seen playing drums at his house, and then he sends mail to his investors, telling them their withdrawals have been temporarily closed due to the fraudulent mortgage bonds. Jamie and Gary watch the news and understand the whole game being played with them in the CDO system. They go to their friend Casey, who was a reporter, to ask him to publish their story, but he denies doing so, asking them to leave. Baum calls Jared and asks him about the situation, to which he replies that the world wants their swaps and tells him that he has been racked, and Baum cuts his call. One of his employees tells him that Kathy has called him into her office. Burry receives a call from Lawrence, who apologizes to him, but he tells him that he has already said a lot to him. Baum goes and meets Kathy and keeps asking about how bad their situation is, but she does not tell him anything about it. Baum tells her that he has seen people crying in her office, and Kathy tells him how they have gotten an exposure of $15 billion, shocking Baum. Baum meets his colleagues and tells them about Kathy's situation, and they tell him that they cannot do anything for them now. Vinny argues with Baum, asking him to sell their swaps, but Baum tells him that they will when he will order them to sell. Until then, they will have to keep waiting. Jamie calls Gary and tells him the whole situation. They did not know how to sell swaps and decide to contact Ben, who was in England with his wife. They ask him to sell their swaps, and he starts to help them and manages to make a deal of $80 million for them. Burry, on the other hand, sells his position at $1.3 billion and sends the profits to his investors. Jared gets his payments and tells that he was not the real hero of the story. Ben informs Jamie and Gary that he has sold their swaps for $80 million, and they get very excited. Jamie then asks Ben why he helped them, and Ben replies that they wanted to be rich, so they are rich now. Baum arranges a press conference where he exposes Bruce Miller, due to which people start to leave the conference. Jamie and Gary go to the bank and watch many people who got unemployed due to the crisis. They enter the bank by taking the key from employees. Burry writes an honest email to his investors, telling them about his wife and the changes that he has to go through while making money. He concludes his email by saying that he is going to close the funds now and leave his office. Baum receives a call from Vinny, who asks him about selling the swaps, but Baum tells him that the bankers will escape after creating this crisis, due to which the poor will have to suffer, and he tells Vinny to sell their swaps. At the end of the movie, we are told about what happens next with Baum, Jamie, Burry, and the others, and the movie ends with it. If you've already watched this movie, share your reviews with us in the comments below. And before you go, don't forget to like and subscribe. Thank you for watching.